Have you seen what Ryan Poles and Jeff King just did today? Because it absolutely blew my mind and changes everything we thought about the draft plans for this franchise. Our top two front office executives skipped out on Ohio State to personally scout a very specific group of players down at Alabama. If you aren't paying close attention to Tuscaloosa right now, you are missing the biggest smoke screen or the biggest clue of our entire offseason. Before we dive deep into exactly who they were watching, please do me a massive favor and smash that like button, share this video with your fellow diehards, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a breaking update. The news coming out of the front office today is incredibly significant, and every single fan needs to be on high alert. General Manager Ryan Poles and Assistant General Manager Jeff King were spotted together down in Tuscaloosa taking in the Alabama Pro Day. Are we really supposed to believe it is just a coincidence that our General Manager and his right-hand man completely bypassed closer, talent-rich Pro Days to fly down south together? Ohio State had their massive Pro Day today. Texas A&M had their Pro Day today. Both of those prestigious programs are absolutely loaded with first-round and Day 2 talent that fits our needs perfectly. You also had Nebraska, Arizona, UCF, and Wake Forest showcasing their top guys. Usually, a front office divides and conquers on days like this. You would fully expect Poles to say he is heading south while King goes to Columbus to get a closer look at the elite Buckeyes prospects. But no, they did not split up to cover more ground. They sent the top two lieutenants of the entire organization to one single location. That is not something you just brush off or ignore. That is a massive neon sign pointing straight at their draft board. What makes this situation so wildly fascinating is that this is not the legendary Nick Saban era where Alabama is pumping out 7 guaranteed first-round picks and a dozen Day 2 selections. They might only have 1 or 2 guys going on opening night this year. Quarterback Ty Simpson has a very good chance to hear his name called early, but we are absolutely not drafting a quarterback with our current roster construction. So you have to look at the rest of the board to figure out exactly who Poles and King are zeroing in on. You have Kaden Proctor as a potential first-round offensive tackle. Then you have Jeremy Bernard as a Day 2 wide receiver. You have LT Overton as a massive, physical edge rusher. Deontay Lawson is an intriguing athletic linebacker. You also have Parker Brailsford at center, Tim Keenan anchoring the defensive line, Jaden Roberts at guard, Domani Jackson out at corner, and Justin Jefferson at linebacker. Out of that entire group, there are about 5 guys who legitimately fit the exact profiles our coaching staff desperately looks for. Let us start with the biggest name and the biggest body on that field, offensive tackle Kaden Proctor. Knowing that Ryan Poles is a former offensive lineman himself, Kaden Proctor has to be sitting very high on our radar right now. He is one of the only pure, true left tackles in this entire draft class. He has been a multi-year starter at Alabama and is coming off the absolute best year of his college career. His size and athletic profile are borderline alien. We are talking about a human being who is 6'7", weighs 350 pounds, and moves like a nimble tight end out in the open field. His athletic testing is flashing green all across the board, proving that he is not just a massive body, but a truly dynamic athlete. The way he gets to the second level to completely erase linebackers is terrifying for opposing defenses. I remember watching Alabama run a creative screenplay where Proctor was out in front leading the charge, and it was like watching a freight train with no brakes. Head coach Ben Johnson has to be practically drooling over the thought of adding a ruthless road grader like that to his offensive scheme. Now, I know people will scream that left tackle is not our absolute biggest need, but we have to face reality regarding our offensive line room. We are still holding our breath hoping Ozzie Trapilo can be the long-term answer, but that patellar tendon injury he suffered in the playoffs was absolutely brutal, and his long-term prognosis remains a massive mystery. We brought Braxton Jones back into the fold, and we took a flyer on Jedrick Wills, but neither of those guys provides a locked-in, guaranteed, elite answer on the blind side. Theo Benedict had to step up when Trapilo went down, and the team even had to shuffle Joe Thuney and Jordan McFadden around just to survive the season. The left side of the line is a giant, glaring question mark. Proctor trimmed down his weight to the 340 range, improved his technique immensely, and graded out spectacularly as a zone blocker this past year. He might not even make it to our pick, considering tackle-needy teams like Detroit or Cleveland could snatch him up early. But if he is sitting there at pick 25, Poles might just pull the trigger and secure the blind side for the next decade. Moving over to the playmakers, we have to talk about wide receiver Jeremy Bernard. There is a very real possibility the front office is looking to grab a receiver on day 2, and Bernard is a major name to watch. He had a solid collegiate career, but his combined testing left a lot to be desired. He ran a 4.48, which is fast, but it does not make him a true, field-stretching burner. The explosive testing was fairly underwhelming, especially that 32-inch vertical jump. High-pointing the football over defenders is not the focal point of his game, but you still want to see more raw explosion from a premium draft pick. I genuinely struggle to see him as the prototypical fit for our offense because he is not an elite yards-after-catch monster, and he does not consistently separate on the perimeter to win those crucial one-on-one matchups. If he is available at pick 89 in the 3rd round, that represents fantastic value, and I would not complain for a single second. But spending a 2nd-round pick on him at 57 or 60 feels like a massive, unnecessary reach. We need a twitchy, game-changing weapon who can immediately strike fear into opposing secondaries, and Bernard projects more as a competing number 3 receiver. Question of the day for everyone watching: would you be absolutely furious if we used a premium 2nd-round pick on a receiver like Jeremy Bernard instead of addressing the edge rusher position, or do you think you can never have enough weapons in this offense? Drop your answers in the comments below right now because I need to know where this fanbase stands. We cannot ignore the defensive side of the ball, which brings us to defensive end LT Overton. Overton has that elite 5-star pedigree after starting his career at Texas A&M before transferring to Alabama. He has spent 4 years playing against upper-echelon SEC competition, which is great, but the actual on-field production is incredibly concerning. He only has 7 career sacks, with 4 of them coming this past season. He is a massive, incredibly physical edge rusher at 6'4" and 275 pounds, which means he perfectly checks a lot of the boxes for defensive coordinator Dennis Allen and his aggressive defensive scheme. But the tape is entirely underwhelming. His pass rush win rate plummeted under 9% this year. When an edge rusher has a sub-10% win rate in college, that is a massive red flag that you cannot simply sweep under the rug. You need your defensive ends to absolutely terrorize the opposing quarterback, and his pressure numbers actually regressed this past year, dropping down to just 24 total pressures on over 260 pass rush snaps. That is downright brutal production for a guy with his raw physical gifts. When I watch him play, he just looks sluggish and slow off the snap. He is a solid run defender who can firmly set the edge, but taking him on day 2 would be a severe mistake that could set our defense back. If he slides all the way down to the 4th round, you take a shot on him as a rotational piece who can occasionally win with a heavy bull rush, but he is far from a premium talent. Then there is linebacker Deontay Lawson, who is a wildly intriguing defensive prospect. He completely opted out of athletic testing at the combine, and he just stood on his football drills today in Tuscaloosa. He has a very interesting build for a modern linebacker, measuring in at 6'3" but weighing just under 230 pounds. That is fairly light for his height, but his coverage skills are undeniably impressive. He graded out exceptionally well against both the pass and the run. I would absolutely love to grab him in the 4th round, and I would even stomach drafting him in the 3rd round. He could come in immediately and compete for that crucial 3rd linebacker spot with genuine starting upside for the future. However, his blatant refusal to do athletic testing gives me serious pause. When a player who is not a locked-in 1st-round pick actively hides from the stopwatch and the measuring tape, you always have to wonder what glaring weakness they are trying to cover up. Finally, we have to look at center Parker Brailsford. He generated a massive amount of hype coming into the season as a potential top overall center prospect, but he stagnated just a bit this year. He is your classic undersized center at 6'2" and 290 pounds, but he moves exceptionally well in open space. Knowing how heavily our offense relies on the outside zone run game, his lateral mobility is an absolutely perfect fit. He could be drafted as a developmental understudy to Garrett Bradbury, and eventually take over the starting job down the road. He is not in that elite tier of current center prospects, but if we end up acquiring a late-round pick, he would be a phenomenal, high-upside dart throw for this offensive line room. This massive front office presence in Tuscaloosa is something we cannot ignore as we inch closer and closer to the draft. Ryan Poles has been incredibly vocal about his deep desire to meet these young men face to face, look them in the eye, and evaluate their true character in person. My gut feeling is telling me they wanted to get a completely unfiltered look at Kaden Proctor to see if he is the franchise protector they desperately need to anchor this line. Would you take a massive swing on a guy like Kaden Proctor at pick 25 if he falls right into our laps? Let me know your thoughts down below. Stay locked in as the draft approaches, and bear down.